an old man in there making a comment. If you knew you were making history, you'd pay more attention to it.
That's good. That's really good.
And that always reminds me, a lot of what I try to do is to be able to make history now for the future. It's not a job.
Welcome to the One Gang Worldwide podcast, your ultimate ride into the world of motorcycles. Visit cyclesworldwide.com, where we offer a completely free marketplace for everything motorcycles. Join our One Gang community where you can connect, share info, and swap stories with riders from all over the world. Join for free at cyclesworldwide.com and be a part of the One Gang community right now.
What's going on, One Gang? When you see the Monster Energy logo on a race car, a rally bike crossing the desert, or on a helmet of the world champion, you're looking at more than a sponsorship. You're looking at strategy, risk, vision, and decades of calculated brand building. Today's guest has been a part of that journey from the ground floor. Joe Parsons is the director of special marketing projects for Monster Energy across Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. And he's been helping build the brand for over 2 decades. From launching the very first monsterenergy.com website to managing global motorsports partnerships, athlete programs, and international brand activations, Joe has helped turn Monster into one of the most dominant forces in sports marketing on the planet. This isn't just a marketing story. This is a story about building a movement that travels the world, man. Joe, I am so stoked to have you on. We've been trying to get you on for a while, so welcome to the show, brother.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to talk story, brother.
Yeah. Joe, thanks for joining, man. We are pumped. We're going to start off with a break the ice round where it's 10 rapid fire questions, 10 rapid fire answers. So we'll get cooking. You ready to rock?
Lock and loaded.
All right. Question 1, when you're off duty, 2 wheels, 4 wheels, or a plane ticket?
Well, it starts with a plane ticket.
All right.
Fair. And then 2 wheels or 4 wheels when you get to your destination?
Well, I kind of have a split decision on that. The older you get, it's nice to have a cage around you when you're out in the desert and stuff like that. But at the same time, exploring on 2 wheels is a blast.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man. All right. Question 2, most iconic motorsport moment you've ever witnessed in person?
For me, in the year 2020, I had my 50th birthday on January 17th, 2020. And
January 15th. I knew I liked this guy.
It was the first time an American had won the Dakar rally. That was Ricky Brabec. So
that's right.
To me, that was an unbelievable moment. And on top of that, I was graced to have Ken Block there with me.
Oh, cool, man. That's crazy. I remember catching up on that. That's absolutely nuts. All right. I have about 30 questions I want to ask just about that, but we're going to stick to the icebreaker round. Question 3, favorite country you've worked in so far and why?
Oh, Morocco has some interesting landscapes. Morocco, it's just raw. It's untouched. It hasn't been modernized, especially in the areas that I've been able to venture off in. Baja California, that's where the love for me for the 1000 and the Baja 250, the Baja 100 pre-run, Bobby Gordon back in the day, eating lobster burritos. I mean, just getting to see beyond the path, so I always have a chart for Baja.
Mm-hmm. Beyond the Path sounds like your book title. All right. Question 4, one athlete you've worked with who surprised you with their, whether it be work ethic or humility, intensity, just something about them that surprised you.
I'm going to say Ricky Brabec. He came in sport. He comes from racing the Baja races and the U.S. desert races, hare and hounds and stuff like that, into this European sport, which is rally racing. And he didn't know anybody, he didn't speak the languages. And from the year 2015, I believe, was his first entry in, and then winning it in 2020. He almost won it in 2019. He had a mechanical breakdown on the last stage, leading the race. Which was a huge setback, as an athlete, to put that helmet back on and come back and do it again.
Yeah.
Being so close to be the first American in 2019. We were in Peru, Saudi, in 2020. So for me, that from a racing perspective, that was just a huge change to see this kid from Hesperia, California, breed.
Killer.
That is out of control. And he's young. What is he?
He's
91,
36,
right?
36, I believe, 34.
Still got it.
He's won it twice. The third time this year in 2026, he lost by 2 seconds.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Miles of racing.
Yeah. To pick that guy's brain. 2 seconds is nuts for a race that long.
The day before that, he got stuck behind a herd of animals, which cost him about 40 seconds.
Gosh, dude. That's crazy to conceptualize, man.
Oh, yeah. If you look on YouTube, you'll see it.
All right.
Yeah.
Stage 11. Stage 11.
Okay, question 5. VIP pass moment where you thought, how is this my life?
I've been in some pretty cool VIPs, okay, to stick to one sport always. But Saudi, the Middle East has some amazing hospitality. And I've been blessed to have met some interesting people, such as the Prince in Saudi.
Wow.
He's the Prince of Motorsport. They have a handful of princes, and Prince Khalid looks over all of the Federation of Motorsports in Saudi. And he graced me with a VIP pass this year to watch the podium ceremony. And I was sitting up there. I was probably literally the only American sitting up there, and it's just a bunch of dignitaries in that area, in that space, big, comfy, loungy chairs, prime spot right over the podium. Spectacular. But at this time I've been to some of our hospitality boxes that we get at Supercross. With a few celebrities who casually come in, like Matt LeBlanc has come to a few of them.
He's a big motorcyclist.
Exactly right. Yeah. One of these legends is better than hanging out in the VIP box.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. I feel like that's a no-brainer. All right. Question 6. Biggest marketing myth people still believe.
Marketing myth. I think you might have stumped me on that one. Marketing myth.
Where's the beef?
Red Bull doesn't give you wings.
Yes.
That's awesome, dude. That's so funny.
Thinking, well
that
done,
might be
man.
one of the best answers we've ever had on this thing. That's so funny.
All right. Question 7. Dinner with one person, dead or alive. Who are you breaking bread with and why?
Oh, and I'd be on do them again. Ricky Carmichael, Ken Block, who's really close to me.
Sick.
Starstruck by anyone, to be fair. I've been blessed to work with some of the best.
Yeah.
But wisdom you can extract from some of those guys.
Absolutely.
I can imagine. Carmichael and McGrath were two of my borderline heroes growing up on a dirt bike, watching these guys.
Behind me, that's Carmichael's last jersey he raced in 2007, Bud's Creek Nations, and gave that to me. And that's quite a joy right there.
How are those dudes off air, off the track? Are they as cool and as good as they seem? They got to be.
They're humans. They're dudes.
Right.
They bleed, they cry, they have good times, they have bad times. Dudes, right?
Yeah. When you're one-on-one, they're cool. Just chilling. All right.
Lutter loves to go fishing. Loves to go hunting, fishing as well.
Just regular dudes.
Let's play in a snowmobile, right?
Yeah. There's something about the sport, man. It's other racing sports. I feel like there's a lot more ego with individual racers, and I've never felt that about this sport. I've never felt
yeah. Those that he earned it, right? They kind of fair. Yeah. They earned where they are. Yeah, they made a lot of money. Yeah, they become famous and they're celebrities in the rightful sport.
Dedication. That's a lot of things involved in that, which is being humble, working hard.
Nothing was given to them.
That's right.
And they know it. Yeah.
All right, question 8, dream garage. The normal question is one car and one motorcycle, but you can pick 2 or 3, and it doesn't have to be a car or a motorcycle. It could be dirt bike, whatever you want to go. 2 or 3 items.
In garage, nothing nicer to have a pimped out Ford Raptor sitting in there.
Yes. Nice.
That's got to be in the garage. Bikes, 450 dirt bike.
Slick.
Hog.
Yeah.
Right on. Cool, man.
Good old American twin for sure.
Black on black, old school hog.
All
Nothing driven.
All chain.
Chain,
Yes, sir.
baby, chain.
Clackety
chain.
clack, clack, clack.
Yeah.
I just had that argument on Saturday, chain versus belt. Question 9, 2 left. Most quote unquote renegade idea you ever pitched that actually worked.
Ooh. Renegade idea that actually worked. Rally as an American company to persuade our leadership in supporting Robbie Gordon and his Hummer project into the Dakar Rally, which brought light for me. And then sticking with it, right? With Stefan Petterhansel in 2012 when I was looking after our mini project. He won in 2013. He won, actually, Nani Roma won in 2014. And then we switched gears and we left the four-wheel side of rally in cross-country rally and partnered up with Honda. When they didn't have the best bike, they didn't have the best riders, and there was a long-term plan put in place. Then putting an American on there and then winning the thing as an American company.
Yeah.
To be a part of that, it did eyeballs around the world for us.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the levee breaking in a way.
Yeah.
That's
and
cool.
We started in 2017. 3 years later, we got our first win. 2021, we got another win. 2020, we got another win. In 2024, we swept the podium for the first time in the history of self to have Monster Energy riders 1, 2, and 3. Crazy. Out of Botswana, Ross Branch, who rides for another team that we look after here at Motorsports. He ended up taking second. Adrian Van Beveren, who's French, out of France, who rides for our Honda team, took third, and Ricky won.
Nice.
Phenomenal, right? I mean, you can't buy it. Our work went into achieving that, right? Over time, it was to keep flow going. Leadership, when you don't, is not easy.
Yep.
But we have a leadership that believe in long-term goals, and now we'll be reckoned with. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Right on.
Even if we don't win, we come to winning. We won times now. We won championships now. We won individual races as well as Dakar, but we also win on the media side.
Yeah, right on. All right, last question. If Monster didn't exist, what brand would you love to build from scratch? What industry? Tell us about it.
A lot of things differently, obviously, through the lens of Monster.
Yep.
But being that I've been on this side for as long as I have, I feel there are a lot of brands out there that can make it. For instance, what comes to my mind when you say that is a company that we probably grew up with and we closed with it. And it's called Tide.
Tide.
I feel with the right players in place, you could make Tide cool again. The world needs to wash their clothes.
What about Sanka?
It's all right.
I'm joking, man. But that was the thing with us growing up. Everybody had a big jug of Sanka, of coffee.
What about Tang? Drink Tang.
Tang.
Brands that have come and gone that missed the mark.
For sure.
Yeah. And Tang immediately makes me think of all those, like Surge. Remember Surge?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, man?
But there's the one thing that comes to my mind in all of that, not any one brand, is those brands exist beyond the life that they had.
Right. When you get that big.
They never made them cool.
You got to create a movement.
Yeah. Race team would probably be the only way to do it, man. That's where you bring it onto a stage where like it's seen by the youth.
To build Monster without advertisement.
I know, which is insane.
Which I have that recipe. I have that playbook in my head.
Cool.
And I see so many big companies missing that because they're the sales guys looking for a return. The market wants to get the next campaign. And they're looking for that quick result.
Yep.
All right, listen, let's do this. And not to cut you off because we're gonna get into all this stuff. Let's kick it off. Let's kick the show off because this is the fun part. This is your true journey here. So I want to find out, where did you grow up and what were you like as a kid? Were you a quiet kid, competitive, creative? What was your nature back in those days?
Oh, I was a rebel,
No.
you know, kid. Easy shit. You know, we
Where'd you
had
grow
no
up?
in California in 1979 when I was 9 years old for the U.S. government. Karachi, Pakistan in 1970. We lived about a year or so in Tehran. We about 3.5 years in Kafisha, Greece. We lived about another 3.5 years in Monrovia, Africa.
Wow.
A lot of security systems for the American embassies back then. And so
Cool.
that's why we moved around quite a bit, you know. So the first years of my life, I lived abroad. Then 79, he left the gun and for in Fullerton, California.
Cool.
And so we ended up moving to Garden Grove, California, Southern California, 8 miles from Newport Beach.
Yeah. You think you rebelled because you moved around so much? Had to.
No, I mean, being abroad never really affected me in a negative way, positive way. It probably gave me more an appreciation for what I had.
Yeah.
You know, I took up BMX, you know, racing when we moved to California, fell in the beach.
And Cali that was the time when everything was just starting to really develop out there, huh? Like
Yeah,
BMX and
skateboarding.
skateboarding, everything, surfing. I know surfing started earlier, but like the BMX and the skateboarding
Yeah.
starting
Yeah,
to hit it.
my roots, and a lot of my friends played in the desert, had motorcycles. I'd go, my parents didn't have motorcycles. We didn't have motorcycles, but a lot of my friends and neighbors did.
When did you get your first bike?
Oh, I probably would have been the mid 80s with one of my friends. It was a KX65 Kawasaki, I believe.
Loved it.
Rode together out in the desert, you know. I'm a lot, and we would go camping out to Akatia Wells in California for the weekend and play around on dirt bike, take old stuff and shoot it up outside in the desert and put things on fire and
It's the life.
Yeah, man, it was wide open
just
back
do a
then.
lot
I
of
get
crazy,
it.
you know.
Like the cops in your town, everybody knew the kids screwing around. You had beer in the car, whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, I
all
remember we
had
used
be
to get
home.
pulled over, and the cop would be like, "Okay, what's in the trunk?" I'd be like, "We got a case of Bud." He's okay. I'm taking that. I need to take it, fill his fridge up, and they would let us go.
Yeah.
No, but
To the whole clubbing, bar, nightlife aspect. It was like someone's having a house party, punk rock band playing in the back,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
So
Keg of
much
beer,
more
$5
fun
to
than
get in.
Yeah.
I know it's killer, man.
Joe, before Monster, you were with Toshiba on web projects. What were you doing there? And what did that era of the internet teach you?
Oh
What was your
God,
early
that
career
was
like?
a luck, you know. I mean, Toshiba in the middies, as the year 2000 was coming, the big Y2K bug was
Y2K,
about
yeah.
Oh,
to
yeah.
embark on us, right? Started in the warehouse. I got moved into the repair area. Then I got into the credit department. And then I got moved into IT. Moved around a lot, was eventually ending up in IT, was because I knew product flow of stuff coming in the warehouse, getting in the repair, understanding credits and debits, working with the credit department. As the Y2K bug was coming closer, the turnover of programmers was really high.
Yeah.
So Toshiba would be getting new programmers in every week and losing programmers every week. But
That
they
makes
didn't
sense.
know the flow of product. So
Right.
I got moved into IT to sit down with programmers to help them with the formal logic. And that
Smart not to have.
helped me when they, okay, the product goes where? I'm like, oh, it needs to go to this department. Then they would understand,
Yeah.
okay, logically, how do they need to make that work?
Yeah.
Um,
Lots
So
of companies have that gap between the two. IT is disconnected because they don't
Absolutely.
understand the whole sales flow and the commerce
Exactly.
side.
And
Yeah.
I was a nobody, any formal technical background. So it's not like they could invest in me and I could leave.
Right.
And so eventually got to a point to where they came to me and they said, what do you like to do? And I said,
nice.
you know, color. And so they put me through Photoshop school,
Cool.
you know, and that was the late 90s, you know, and then I got onto the company intranet and I was doing a lot of graphic design and web design within that infrastructure to eventually I got moved over to Toshiba.com and doing the same thing, you know, creating boards and creating websites. Then in 2001, they had a massive layoff, you know, because the two bugs here,
Right.
all of these working. And so they started sourcing a lot of things, right?
What a crazy time.
After about 9 years being there, I got laid off. Nice severance package. I needed to that was going to be part of what I was already making, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Can I ask you a question? You stepped into that digital change where the internet was coming up, and you were with a big company like Toshiba on top of that, which was technically a pretty sound organization. Yep. Do you remember the first time you realized the internet is going to change branding forever?
I didn't realize that until after.
Okay.
Realized the value I had by stepping out of the box, right? Forward to after getting laid off. I got introduced through the surf industry by the name of Rodney Sachs, who's the founder of Monster Energy. Was taught of his buddies that they're looking for someone to help build their website.
Huh.
And it was at a backyard barbecue with another guy named Joel Cooper, who founded a clothing called Gotcha Clothing.
Wow.
And they're both South Africans. And Joel Cooper, he had a surf company called Lost Surfboards.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And business partners, one of his business partners is Matt Biolis, who was my son-in-law.
That's wild.
And so while I was laid off, I was helping Lost Enterprises and Lost Surfboards rebuild forms, so like their websites and stuff. They said, look, we can't keep this guy employed forever. They gave the president of Hand at that time, which is now Monster, Mark. They gave Mark Hall my telephone number, and Mark called me up and said, hey, I got this referral to maybe sit down and meet with you about maybe you want to come on as a consultant and help build our. And I didn't know energy drinks were.
Nobody did at that time.
And so I drove up to Corona, California. I met with Mark. We all got along really, really good. This was mid-September-ish of 2001. Like a freelance contract to work to the end of the year. Months, they offered me a full-time position to work at this beverage company. And there was a crazy brand called Monster Energy Drink. They had already had some other drinks, obviously. They had this Hansi Pro kind of playing in the action sports a little bit. Well, yeah. I knew everybody from the action sports surf industry. If we needed to get involved in events or parties or things like that, that was easy, just showing up to a lot of these, local events, parties and things of such of the industry with drinks.
Yeah.
And just started handing out drinks all the time.
No shit.
Hey, you're having a party? Hey, I'll bring you a bunch of drinks.
Grassroots.
And so there was no tracks. There was no money. There was no official sponsor.
Right.
It was just, you're the monster dude. And years after that, Mark came to me and said, you don't want to be my web dude, do you? Go find someone to do that stuff. I want you to do my marketing. I said, wow, I never had a marketing job. All right, no problem. Let's go do it. And I took her an answer. And even though I didn't know what the fuck I was doing some at the time, but I had real recs of connections that it wasn't this digital space. To lean on that network quite heavily as I migrated more and more and more. We had a big surf event in Hawaii, which became Energy Pipeline Pro. We aligned with Billabong. I had all my Billabong cronies over there to line us up together. Cast, in the 2005, 2006, 2007, would surf and have that stuff. And even though I wasn't the hard techie guy, I knew all mates at Toshiba.
Sure.
I knew all my rocket scientist dudes that could build that stuff. I had a good friend who was a Vietnamese kid who was working before Toshiba. He was working for military contracts doing friend or foe identification in missiles. So I had these guys that I got along with, and I could leverage them. And I'd say, hey, how much are you going to charge me to build a database, bro? Can you connect it to this? Dude, I'll do it on the weekends for cheap, $1,000. And just piece into like, okay, now, Joe, I want you to worry about, motors. I was like, oh, well, I kind of know Robbie Gordon. He's from Orange, California. Let me give him a call. He was Race World. You know what I mean? That's what, and by little, you start just branching off for big programs, all because of a friend you might have had or a friend of a friend,
Your network.
There was no cold calling, and to be a part of the party.
Yeah. I want to ask you in those early years, before we go too far ahead, I wanted to ask you, what did Monster do differently than everyone else in those early days? What was the formula that people missed?
I think, our president call was pretty switched on.
Yeah.
If I'm going to build a marketing team, he didn't look to the scholars, if you know what I mean. Okay? I want to get into music. And he identified his 3 pillars of our brand: sports, girls, and music.
Right on.
Because all 3 of those work together. When you look at side, okay, let's go get a guy who lives in the music world. He doesn't need to know beverage business.
Right.
Let's go get that guy. Let's go extract him. He could be a past musician or whatever. Let's go get that guy so that when we go into the music space, we're not fake. We have authenticity.
Right.
We have credibility. Yeah.
Who was the first person you chose for the music? Do you remember?
I can't even remember the guy's name.
It's all right. No big deal. I just didn't know if it was somebody.
I can't even remember at the time. And he was living up in the LA region area. He was a night owl guy, but getting our product in all of the, clubs and bars and restaurants that we wanted to,
Right.
That did the premise stuff, that actually landed those accounts. That was Jeff Hoover, and was another guy probably didn't wake up till 1 in the afternoon every day. That space, right?
Lived the nightlife. Yeah.
He lived the nightlife. Same with myself with sports and motorsports. That is of Orange County, marketing, you know what I mean? Yeah, I company through my IT knowledge, but we were very freestyle. We just went with the least resistance. And the biggest we did was in 2003, Vans Warped Tour.
Oh, that's sick.
Our president came in and said, "Hey, I just had along with Kevin Lyman over at Vans. We're going to do the Warped Tour." We're like, "What are we going to do?" And so he scrambled around on the internet and he found a trailer from, I think it was like an old DeWalt trailer. It was bright yellow. Got that thing into the back of our warehouse, painted that whole thing black, cut on the side of the trailer, made a flip down bar.
Killer.
On the inside, we found some metal fabricator that fabricated like a giant horse trough to fill a bunch of drinks with ice, and put a sound system in that thing. And off we went to the Vans Warped Tour. It was like 52 locations in 58 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. 100 bands at each up, and a bunch of just punk rock dudes everywhere. Absolutely. And all of you are our VIP.
Yeah.
You guys can want to come in and hang out and chill over here and get a free drink. Where at that time,
brilliant,
people weren't giving that class of society any attention.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And so we gave them that. We gave them a place to hang out. We gave them a platform to come and chill with us. And in return, they accepted our brand as one of them.
That's right.
Some individuals out of that, meeting Jason Acuna, who is AKA Wee Man, other dude, the biker in black, Rick Thorne's still with us today. Cool. BMX is doing BMX events at the Vans Warped Tours that Vans had hired him for.
That's right.
Networking, we met people at all these different events.
When did you realize this wasn't a job? This was actually a movement you were helping build. Did you have that moment?
I still don't recognize it as a job.
That's awesome, man.
I'm very blessed to, I work from here in Poland now. So I don't get caught up in the office politics, of which you can imagine in today's world, there's an abundance of them. For what you say, what you do, all of that stuff. And so, I in Poland, and I work out of my home office. I do research on the internet on a daily basis, constantly live on the web, trying to make things better.
Yeah.
I work with helmet painter out of the Czech Republic the last 12 years, and work with riders to make their helmets better paint jobs, look better. I work with the race teams to make their liveries look better.
Mm-hmm.
Even though everything's perfect, It can always be better.
Can always be better. Exactly right.
Always be
Yeah.
better. Your mistakes, right?
Yep.
You learn a lot of different things differently from past experiences. One of the things that I learned a lot from Ken Block is you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Jack, for instance, if you look back over Ken Block's liveries, a lot of his creative design came from the designs of the 80s.
Yeah.
You
can
know
tell.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So bringing some of those designs back, incorporating with today's materials and paints, can the old be revolutionary?
Agreed, man.
We look at an old classic motorcycle, right? And restore that thing today. It's badass compared to what they make today.
100%.
Right.
Say vintage never goes out of style. It just doesn't.
It doesn't. And you modernize it. There's just something, I don't know. Maybe it's my era.
No, man, a lot of that's coming back. The neon colors, that scheme, that's all just cool. It's fun to see, even in baseball, like youth sports and stuff that kids are wearing these days. A lot of the merch is fun, neon greens and pinks and stuff, and it's just cool. Yeah, I'm glad to see that that's coming back. We don't live in a boring doldrum type of world.
Sketchy artwork stuff, repaints.
Yeah,
it's punk rock. Maybe it was too early for its time for the world to see it because there wasn't social media to really get it out there. A picture of something, boom, and it's
exactly,
literally.
Yeah,
right.
It's totally different.
I love it. Joe. Oh, sorry. But then I cut you off. I love the old stuff because, and the reason being is that anybody who did the things that they did was considered an original. So you started it, and then maybe somebody picked it up because they walked by it or they saw it somewhere walking by it. Now, it's all you have to do is just put a pretty face with something, put it out on the internet. And then anywhere you walk, everybody looks the same to me. I don't know. It's like the same thing with cars and motorcycles. They all look the same to me. There is no individuality in anything anymore. It's so fun.
So I sings and I get ideas. Yeah. Whatever. Whoa, I can take that. I can apply it to there. I can overlay it onto a different material. Yeah, and just try different things,
Playing with different mediums. So back to the job ask thereof, depending on how you phrase it. Your title becomes Senior Motorsports Marketing Manager. Contracts.
I was looking at, a wheel motorsports and two-wheel motorsports stuff. Yeah. And then
did it feel like stakes got real at any point? Did it feel like you had pressure at all from the job? Or was it all just fun?
No.
How can I make it?
No, the leadership never gave me that.
That's sweet,
killer,
man.
In 2005, we went to the X Games with our president, Mark Hall. And we didn't have athletes at that time. Yeah. Hey, let's go to the X Games. It's just up in Los Angeles. They got the semis for FMX Street Style about the kickoff. I said, all right, let's go. And watch that. And we looked riders who qualified for the final that did not have a drink sponsor. Mark had a backpack with $25,000 cash. And so this one rider, Adam Jones, he qualified for the final, didn't have a drink deal. I walked up to Adam and I said, hey, no contract. Here's $5,000 cash right now. You get on the podium, hold our can. We're doing like that.
Dude?
Yeah.
No, people still do that in sports or no?
Do whatever you want, right?
Well, it was raw back then, so it was wide open.
It was freestyle,
almost
bro.
like the Vans tour. It was open. Yeah. Now it's so fucking corporate.
In some events, perspective. So let's give you an example. A big event's taking place in Vegas. Our president says, let's go get the Sky Villa at one of the casinos. We'll spend $20,000 on that rental of the night, and let's invite everybody to the party.
Killer.
Cool, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Who's who? Everybody congregated to Vegas for that event, for instance, right? So we would do stuff like that at X Games in the early days when we were not a sponsor of X Games, but we would create a party event adjacent to everybody being in town.
Smart.
Put out flyers to invite specific people and have a limit, right? So everyone wants to get to the place they can't, right?
Of course.
And talk starts happening, right? Yeah. And we did fun stuff like that.
Your bike turns heads. your gear should too. Milwaukee Motorcycle Clothing Company has classic leathers and bold new designs you won't find anywhere else. Shop top brands plus exclusive MMCC originals. Right now, our listeners get 20% off their entire order with promo code CW20. Visit MilwaukeeMotorcycleClothing.com today.
What's the hardest part of athlete celebrity management, maybe that fans never see?
Is getting them to do media when you need them to do media.
That makes sense.
Got
Good
it.
answer.
Got it.
You know, you need that might have won something, and you need to capitalize on that moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And he just wants to.
And that's last thing. Exactly.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's wrangling them at that time, and you need to have that personal relationship with them. You can get in their space.
And guess it.
You don't make them feel like you're just another media whore.
You want to be an interested friend. who
Personal
really wants to hear.
relationships, man.
It's this is good for you to do this right now. We need to do this right now. You need to speak to this person right now. X, Y, Z. Get it? In today's world, they get it. But in earlier years, like Mike Metzger, for instance, challenging times, but we could probably laugh about it and be good friends about it,
Cool, man. That segues well into the next question. Monster's known for choosing partners carefully. What are the real criteria you look for before Monster says yes?
There's a reason I go to all these events. So
Scouting.
if I'm going to look to sign one, you're already playing in my sandbox.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to speak to some existing athletes that we already have about a potential person's character fit into our family. We're all about winning, and we're all about, but at the same time, we're about having a good time along a way. Right. So
what's the fastest way for an athlete or a team to get a no from you?
send me a presentation.
Here's my PowerPoint.
Oh, no. Yeah. Tell you what they want to do. I got you. Yeah. That makes
Normally
sense.
it's the opposite. It's if I did in someone, I'm going to ask them to send me a simple deck so that I don't need to do it myself.
Right.
Leverage that information in the deck to persuade leadership as to why we should or why we shouldn't. Yeah.
Makes sense.
But, here now, 24 years, I don't take anything to the leadership unless I know it's going to happen.
Right.
And they
not
know
wasting their time.
Where our newer generation might not have that trust with the leadership. So they need to go through this hierarchy, and it's much harder because they got to go to their boss. The boss has got to go to their boss, and so forth and so forth and so forth. And and it takes time to have that link that's trusting from the bottom to top.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes your life easier too, because it's more efficient. You're not spinning wheels or wasting. Joe, you moved into CEE and later EMEA leadership. What did that transition teach you about culture, markets, building a global brand? Yeah.
At the end of 2009, I was asked by Rodney Sachs and Mark Hall to come and launch Eastern Europe for the brand. And I said, sure, let's go. I have a divorce in 2007, 2008. I had nothing to hold me back. I just got on a plane and flew to Budapest, Hungary.
Wow, man.
And we launched the brand in Eastern Europe in Hungary, in Budapest.
Killer.
And then I quickly went to work, didn't speak Hungarian. So looked up what brands were there that I knew. Yeah. And the first one that came to my mind was this Oakley shop. And it was called The Lab. And at that time, the owner, Tomasz Lani, was a franchisee of Oakley. And he had the franchise for the Oakley brand for distribution within Hungary. But yet he also had his own shop. And he had to do marketing, obviously, right?
Right.
So I went to him and I said, hey, bro, tap into your network and let everybody know that if they want to try some Monster, to come on down to the lab. I got 3 cases with me right now. And 300 kids showed up.
Wow.
Man.
18,
Jeez.
19, 20-year-old kids showed up. My peer group for that brand.
Yep.
I said, hey, what events are we doing here? They go, oh, we sponsor this event. We do this music festival. I'm like, well, what do you guys normally have at those events? Oh, well, we bring an easy up or a setup or whatever. So I said, hey, how about this? Why don't I do a contract with you? Wherever you go, you take me.
Cool idea. Cool concept.
Well, all of a sudden, Oakley is doing these events in Budapest, in Hungary, music events, all kinds of events. And wherever they had their Oakley stand to display their glasses, there was a Monster cooler there.
Brilliant.
So
Yeah.
I didn't have to pay that music festival guy to get into that space.
So smart.
I backdoored it, right?
That's killer.
Yeah.
So when we had to launch the brand officially in Budapest, my boss at the time in Europe, Otto Carter, hey, you got 70,000 euros to launch this brand.
Yeah.
So I hooked up with Thomas and I said, Thomas, let's go find an old worn down factory. He said, what do you want to do there? I said, just work with me, bro. So we went into this old factory and I said, how much is it going to cost me to rent this for 2 years? They all looked at me and they're like, this is dilapidated. 10 grand.
There you go.
It needed electrical, it needed roofing, it needed this, it needed that.
So
Oh, well,
your budget.
in the end, I took that 70 and cleaned up that warehouse to make it into a BMX skate park indoors.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And then, yeah. And so then what we did was then to have the launch party with our Coca-Cola partners, which are bottlers. We invited them out to have a punk rock gathering at this BMX skate park. Yeah. The way I skate park was I just went to the BMX skate community. I said, guys, grab your nails and hammer and plywood. Let's go. I'll buy the material. You supply the labor. And so they parked for themselves, and so launch party was over. There was a park there. And then I went to Thomas Lonnie and I said, hey, as part of our partnership agreement, we'll continue to do another 2-year deal with you. We'll pay you to manage the park, and so something back to the community, something they had. Absolutely. Just viral little by little.
Sick.
Yeah.
That's a great story, man. What a way to launch yourself in a completely freaking unknown market.
Yeah. The first year of business, we sold 258,000 boxes of 24
Man.
with no advertising, no billboards, no TV
Crazy.
commercials.
Right.
The Hungarian, Coca-Cola was like, there ain't no way you're going to do this. You're going to need €1 million. You're going to need to launch a above the line campaign, city lights, trains, all this.
Right.
I said, I'll tell you what, if I fail, we'll do it your way.
That's where you got some more rope.
Hell
without
yeah,
a doubt.
man. Yeah, especially back in the day, man. When
then,
that scene
We
was
just copy pasted it, right? So we need to hire street people to sample our drink. I just go to the local BMX shops and say, hey, bro, you know Monster? Of course they know. They're in the BMX scene.
absolutely.
Hey, you want to come to the fence and work for me?
Uh-huh.
So I'm hiring people from within the scene,
Right.
And the drinks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speak
Let
the
me ask you
language,
this.
speak the lingo. Yeah.
What country surprised you the most where the scene was bigger than people realized? That Hungary and Budapest.
Hungary was the first country I launched. So I to bake my first cake once again.
Yeah.
With all of the previous knowledge that I did in America. So I would say surprised me the most. I was jumping around many countries. I was interacting with an abundance of culture, different currencies, different foods. Things were happening at that time. And I needed to prove myself, Hungary, Czech Republic, those three, we kind of launched simultaneously. Then after that, Poland, where we did Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Germany, Greece, Turkey, Bulgaria, Serbia. Yeah, a bunch of, Ukraine, Russia. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
That's cool. Hey, Joe, walk us through a typical year at your level and what you do. How many events, how many countries, how many moving pieces are there?
It's a lot different for me, obviously, right? on the ground locally as much as I was in the beginning, right?
That's what I was. Okay.
Around globally, right? So I look after our rally program. I have, let's see, 10 athletes in that sport who drives for the Factory Defender program, 9 motorcycle riders, between Factory Honda HRC and Factory Hero Motorsports. There are 3 on Hero and there are 6 on Honda. So we have 5 rounds of the World Championship. Now the big one is the Dakar Rally. Which takes the 1st of January, the first 2 weeks of January. So I about a typical year, right? So I typically leave my home and my family on December 27th. And I get back home on January 19th.
So you even miss your birthday with your family?
Yeah. I miss my birthday and New Year's. I stay one day for Christmas. So that's my biggest event of year. And then I have a little bit of a break. Yeah. So we came back January 19th. I leave next week on March 15th for round 2 of the World Championship, and that'll be in Portugal. I leave on the 15th and I come back on the 23rd. And keep between all of that, I'm working with my helmet painter to get helmets painted for all of the athletes for the next round that's coming. Yeah. So after Dakar, working with my pal to get all of the helmets done for Portugal that's coming up. Now, of course, that's next week, so they're already done.
Yeah. You get painted the same? Everybody's got their own flavor?
You extract personalities out of each rider and allow the rider to help design what he wants within restrictions, our brand identity, which is pretty cool shit we do. And the riders love it, the fan it, and it still communicates our brand because we do it that way, fixed on it needs to be this way and only this way.
Right.
We have a lot of flexibility within reason.
Hey, you stay true to how you guys grew.
So there are 5 rounds of the World Championship. So we did Saudi Arabia, we did Portugal, and May we're in Argentina for round 3. Then we take a big break. Right after that, right into speedway cycles. You can mind speedway motorcycle in the east of Europe is massive. No gear, no brakes, methanol.
Yep.
It's
so fun.
80 horsepower on an 87 kilo bike. So the 1-to-1 ratio is almost like crazy. Clutch engine, bikes, but yet complicated for setup because they're doing all the time. So after the Argentina round, where we have a big break of rally, I shift back into and in speedway, we're the sponsor of the FI Speedway World Championship. So I need to obviously make sure all of our contracts are in place, secure for that. I need to make all of our branding assets have been identified. I work with my events team and their events team as to what are we going to do at each round, what assets are available, make sure they're booked, they're clean, they're ready to go, as well as the riders in that sport. Make sure their contracts are all up to speed, PO that they can issue back invoices based on that agreement. All of their branding has been done for the season. We train about 8 to 10 helmets a year per rider. All of that in that January, February time frame because Dakar's already going. Yeah. So I've got my painter doing all of the speedway helmets during that time. Now, this particular year was quite challenging. AM homologation changed their spec on safety requirements of the helmets, which meant the manufacturers had to get new homologated approved helmets, and there was a shortage of helmets, literally. So we kind of got helmets a little bit later than we normally do, but to get to the manufacturer, a lot of the riders have manufacturer deals, so a lot of the riders have priority over retail. Yeah, get them. Working with Alpine Star, they did a lot of hoops, to get us. Keep in mind for Dakar, we show 2 helmets per rider for that race. That means all those helmets, I needed to have them in October to get painted in time before they ship out. received them in the middle of November. Probably 20 of the first helmets released from Alpine Star that we got our hands on. So a little bit sketchy and a lot of stress on that side.
Of course. Can I ask you a quick question? I'm sorry to cut you off. What's the most insane logistical challenge you've ever had to solve? Because it sounds like that's a very stressful part of it, obviously,
Okay.
with the helmets, the painting. Let's get into a little bit of the logistics.
In 2025 in Saudi Arabia, I was using one of our assets, which was a Monaco motor coach, big 40-foot bus. Transmission blew out in the middle of the rally.
Oh, shit.
Oh, gosh, dude.
And now I need to get this thing 2,000 miles back to Jeddah because we were in Riyadh at the time. The race is going one way and the vehicle can't move. I got to go. The race is going.
Yeah.
So I had to leave one of my soldiers there with the motorhome and manage logistics to have a flatbed truck from wherever come and pick him up and flatbed him 2,000 miles back to Jeddah to get into the port so that it could get back on the ferry by the time the race finished.
Oh, my God.
Their assets moving. So once the flatbed truck showed up, got him an airplane ticket from to Jeddah. He got a hotel for the night, received it, got it in the port. He then flew back to Riyadh as we were coming back through Riyadh 7 days later, to pick up the vehicle I was physically driving now. Yeah. So he flew back to Riyadh to drive it all the way back to Jeddah to get on the port while I hopped on a commercial plane to fly back home. A rally. So there was a lot of emails and phone calls and
that sounds
cheap, but we had to get it done, you know. I would say that was one of my stressful.
That's insane.
Yeah, you're so far from home.
Absolutely.
Joe, let's talk motorsports at the highest level. So Monster's deeply involved in Rally Raid, Dakar, WRRC programs. What does it take to operate at that level behind the scenes?
Oh, unlimited budget.
Good answer.
You know, when you're talking factory Honda, a redundance of parts.
Yeah.
That's just on the racing front. But then what people don't realize is on the development side. We go to California, not myself all the time, but the team itself to do durability testing.
Yeah.
Well, if it's into any kind of a problem, then they package whatever that is. Let's say it's an engine or chassis or something. They package that up, air freight it overnight back to Japan, and then they send a new one back. You on a budget because you're developing, right?
Yeah.
When you're a big manufacturer and you're developing stuff, you need to have the capital investment to develop it. Yeah.
Right.
And what Honda does by going racing, we are able to develop future production components that are reliable, that are race proven, that go into your average bike that you buy at the store. And that could be relays, could be lights, switches, wiring looms. All of that gets developed through racing platforms.
Yeah.
You know, so this is where the big budgets come involved because they're not budgeting to go to a race. If you know what I mean. Yeah. The racing platform itself is the laboratory. Yeah. And try a lot of things in our development stages. And we never introduce them to the racing world unless we know it's not going to fail. Then once it doesn't fail and it's successful, now we know we can implement that into production. Yeah. So there's a 3 to 5 year process in that. And even when we have a race winning bike and we want to develop a new bike, lighter, faster, quicker, smaller, agile, performs better in the sand, works better in hard pack, but yet can go at high speeds. In Japan are working on theory, on what that we need to change to accomplish that. And then at some point, a new bike will show up. Well, that bike isn't race proven. It's development side. And during that process, things happen, things break, things fail, and it's back to the drawing board. Yeah. And so that could be 2 to 3 to 5 years before that bike is the next platform we're racing on.
You said specifically, and I guess you talked about like Dakar and the grind of it. As a brand guy, what does winning there mean for you personally? And in addition to, what is the cost of something like that? You don't have to give me the exact numbers, but like for Monster to be there representing, it's got to be because that's like the Super Bowl for you guys, right?
Yeah. I mean, we have bigger investments than what I'm involved in. Obviously, you look at MotoGP, massive. Yeah.
Massive.
From our side, but even bigger from the manufacturer side, right? Now we're talking about developing road bikes. Turn doesn't change. You can simulate a lot of that, right? So road racing, I think, is probably one of our biggest investments. Outside of that, our biggest investment is UFC.
I was going to ask, like Raul Rosas Jr., there's a handful of guys. Have you gotten to go
that's just on the athlete side, but the after UFC partnership that we have, upwards of probably 25 million on up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that global partnership, in addition to the things we do at each event, right? In addition to each athlete we endorse, all of those individual athlete deals. It all adds up.
That actually transitions a little bit into this question, Joe. How do you decide where Monster goes all in versus where it keeps it selective?
Your gut.
It's basically gut. Still gut, just like from the beginning stages.
At least in my realm, a lot of it's gut. You got to believe it.
Absolutely.
You got to believe it. It's a bad investment. Sometimes you make them. I mean, everyone's human.
That's right.
No one's perfect. Yeah. A lot of it is ordinary, right? You look at NASCAR, maybe with, one low B pillar. We built a relationship with the driver. Then we built a relationship with an owner. And then all of a sudden we're on the whole car. Oh, then we built a relationship with the racetrack. Oh, now we're available at that racetrack. Yeah. Evolution is where things progress. Have a better story to tell.
Right.
Otherwise,
to me, it's just amazing, man. Just like hearing
otherwise,
this,
we're just a logo and a paycheck, right?
That's right.
Anybody
Just to
can
me,
buy a
it's
wall.
amazing how you got into this whole thing. And now, as somebody who loves motorsports, UFC, BMX, and all that, basically, it's more the extreme type sport stuff. It's just amazing how far this brand has come. And you've been on that forefront from the beginning stages. That is just
my personal life is when he gets older in motorsport, can look back and say that dude made a difference.
Yeah.
Putting your own personal stamp in a unique way, trying too hard. You know what I mean?
Being authentic.
There's an old saying that comes out of Baja from the movie Dust to Glory. They're making a comment. If you knew you were making history, you'd pay more attention to it.
That's good. That's really good.
That always reminds me what I try to do, to make history now for the future.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. To be able to feel that way is absolutely huge. I got a fun question I want to ask you, Joe. Sponsorship ROI.
Don't measure it.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Most people say it, but you can't measure it, or it's nearly impossible to think.
You can
ROI.
measure it. Of course you can. And you can use it to increase a budget, right? A lot of the new school employees at companies around the world constantly looking at reports, looking at, their level of investment and their return and this and that. Use it as a driver. I use it as I told you so.
Yeah.
When
Yep.
when we look over the amount of money we've invested in Dakar, just Dakar alone, over 18 years of me being involved in the sport,
Man.
hundreds of millions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
They hypothetically, it's 20, 30 million over the last 17 years, 18 years. In 2012, when Stefan Petterhansel won the Dakar Rally in the Mini for his 10th time,
Yeah.
now we came back in 2014 as the reigning champion. So all of the preload advertisements of the Dakar's coming are using the previous year's imagery of that championship.
Yeah.
In the year 2013, there was a Joyce Julius report given back to me from ASO, the organizers, and they worked with Mini on this report on what it would have cost to have ad placement time in this magazine, on this radio, on this 30-second spot around the world. And it was $235 million. The media value. My invest time was only $1 million.
Damn.
You're doing okay.
Now, that's not hard cash, right? It's just a ballpark number of awareness of what it would have cost you if you would have placed ads on that platform at that time for that many seconds.
Yeah.
Right.
Take an aggregate of every platform that you were on. Well, the Dakar is so big that you're everywhere. Your snippets everywhere. Add up all those snippets, and that's where they came up to that number.
Sick.
Now I could take that back to corporate and say, look how much return on investment was. I spent one, we got 235 million back. Can I get another million?
Yeah, for sure.
That is where ROI can work your advantage.
Absolutely.
Right? But
Hey,
if you're going into it for that, you might sponsor a race team and not win, and you go, fuck, I got nothing.
Nothing.
Right?
Yeah.
Next.
Hey, you've been doing this a long time. What changed the most in sports marketing, in your opinion, from 2001 to now? And question two, social media. That was question two. Social media changed everything, obviously. What do most brands still get wrong on social media? We talked a little bit about this off the air before we started.
Probably using ad agencies to tell their story.
That
that sums it up. It's the truth, man.
Aren't you better to tell your own story than hiring someone?
Absolutely, man.
Unless you can't tell your story. You don't have one.
You didn't build it. You didn't build the story. If you don't have a story to tell, you didn't build it, man.
Exactly. You wake up and you go about your day. At the end of the day, tell me your story. Oh no, you're going to hire someone to do that?
That's right. That's awesome, bro. That was a great answer, man. Great answer.
Yeah. Yeah, Joe, for the audience listening, what's one behind the scenes truth about big sponsorships that nobody talks about?
It's not always pretty.
Yeah, sure.
It's not always, some people might perceive a deal as, oh my God, that guy's getting millions. And then some deals might be going, you guys are paying him how much? Every sport, every athlete, every discipline is different, right?
Yep.
And I think this is where sports marketing agencies, right, and ad agencies, they need money. So it's in their best interest to overinflate something for their client, right? Which in the long run hurts the industry, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where someone like myself paid because I did a big deal or I did a small deal. I have a salary. I'm happy. I have a salary.
Right.
Not on the transaction story.
Yep.
Of some of these big multinational companies, right? Of the world, the Vodafones, people working in their marketing office, and they go and hire a marketing agency to do their job. And then the marketing guy at the agency comes back and says, oh, this is what you should be doing. This is going to cost you $10 million. and then the marketing guy that works at Vodafone signs off on it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I want to ask you a little bit. I know we've been talking a lot about the wins and the behind the atmospheric scenes, but my question to you is, I know that what you do, you love, and you're very good at it, but what was your toughest personal stretch? Maybe some burnout, travel, pressure, criticism, where you had to dig deep to make sure you continued on this path. Did you have any of those moments where you were like thinking about just, I'm done, or?
No. Never had a moment that I thought I was done.
That's amazing.
You have moments where you're stuck somewhere on travel and you're like, fuck, what am I going to do?
So that's been the biggest roadblock, you would say?
And the destination and getting home. Getting home is the most important thing to me after I'm gone. Last thing I want to do is any later trip. My is missing me. My wife's missing me. I've been gone. Things need to be done. All the pressure's been put on my wife during that time. You know, those realities of life, right?
Sure.
It's not a job, you know? I'm very blessed that I get to do what I do. When I go to work and I focus on what's in front of me and I give it 110%. And then I know when I'm getting home to a loving family. Yet we realize life's not about me anymore. It's about them. I do my to provide is lifestyle better than I ever had. That's my in life. But at the same time, making my mark in what I do.
Yeah.
And my son will be proud of that, to say, yeah, that was my dad.
Speaking of, perfect segue, when you look back after 20 plus years from now, what are you, or with 20 plus years currently, what are you most proud of building, you and your team, and the impact that it'll have? Talk to us about the legacy side of things a little bit.
I mean, it's not one thing, right? I can look back and I can see this beautiful logo, this drink, and the roads it's taken me. And to think back in 2001, we were just starting this little brand, and where it is today, I'm proud of it all.
Awesome.
I'm proud of what everybody's done to contribute to the success. It takes an army to move a mountain. It's not just me, obviously. I've done some cool things in the beginning that kind of might have built a good foundation. And there are great people that have come, and there's some great people that are still here who are doing amazing things for this brand, areas that I don't play in, maybe that I don't agree with or I agree with, but it all is accumulative, right? To the success of this brand, you know, to our distribution centers, to the truck drivers, to the athletes, to the legal department, finance department. All of that's got to be a fine-tuned wheel to have efficiencies to generate profit, to generate revenue, not eat, and grow market share.
When you started, how many people were employed by that company?
15.
Just hypothetically.
20
and
people.
where are we? Where are we as of March 2026?
5,000.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's incredible,
big,
man. Wow. What a brand. What a growth. Talk about success stories, American success stories.
Just the history of the stock exchange. MNST is the trading. I believe it's and that's on paper if you Google it, probably the best performing stock percentage-wise in the last 2 decades. Better than Apple, better than Yahoo, better than Facebook, percentage-wise.
Yeah. That is wild. That's unreal.
Yeah.
Joe, for someone who wants to step into this world, sports marketing, brand partnerships, athlete management, what skills do they need right now? And what advice do you have for that kid with the hustle but no connections?
To be fair, that perfect candidate is going to come from one of those areas that we play in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sense.
Like, I think the brand itself can teach you the marketing, but we can't teach you to be you.
Solid.
Teach you to be credible. If it's skateboarding, you want to find someone that's in the skateboard industry, right? That's it. You know, and
right.
that could bring our brand into that space. We don't want an imposter to bring our brand into that space, and that space goes, who's this dude?
Right.
Right.
I want a guy in
Authentic.
that space that go, yeah, Johnny, it's about time you showed up. You know what I mean?
Going back
Yeah,
to the
absolutely.
advertising marketing company that somebody hires to advertise your products.
Exactly, dude.
Yeah, man, that's freaking awesome, dude. That was a great way to, that analogy was spot on. As we wrap up the show, I want to ask you a couple of questions. Where can people get a hold of you, follow the journey? Number one, like where you most
The easiest probably is on Instagram. That's probably where I live the most. You know?
Okay.
Profile monster_Joe, all lower cases. Bar that comes up is Joe Parsons.
And what do you got going on too? Tell us a little bit if we haven't covered anything. What's on the horizon with Monster? What's on the horizon with Joe Parsons? What's going on? Maybe we haven't covered.
Get ready to next Saturday, Sunday, and head to Portugal. We're
Cool.
You need somebody to carry your luggage for you. Right here, brother.
I depart here early 15th out of Warsaw into Lisbon. One of my crew guys will pick me up, and then I'll join the Honda team. I have assets that are being taken there for me. And then I'll the team on that whole week. Wrap we're in the morning. We're in bed at 9 o'clock at night. We do that 7-8 days straight. Then I'll jet set back on the I get back home. I'm home for a few days. And then the morning of April 2nd, I jet to London. A couple of days in our corporate office in London. Meet a bunch of new faces. Say hello to old faces. Just a little bit of time. On April 8th, here in a small town called Łódź in Poland, we will have our media day where we'll kick off the 2020 FIM Speedway World Championship Media Day. First race for that championship will be May 2nd in Landshut, Germany. Around May 13th or so, I hop on a plane and head to Argentina for round 3 of the World Rally Raid Championship. The cycle just continues. Man.
What a freaking cool reason to travel. Gosh. Like you're never saying, I'm traveling for work. This sucks.
No, like I said, the hardest thing is, my boy and my wife saying, oh, you're gone again. How many days this time?
That is hard. Yeah, man.
The little guy in the summer.
Yeah. Some of the rats that are close, I bring to Abu Dhabi for one of the rallies. We have a lot of speedway in Europe. We have 3 or 4 rounds just in Poland.
Nice.
Nice. So we drive to those for the weekend or whatever. Big deal. Interacts with a lot of the athletes themselves. So he's been around them since he was a baby,
Man.
So he
have a favorite? Does he have a favorite thing that he likes to attend?
The motorcycles and things like that. He has no big interest to get one and get on one. He himself plays ice hockey.
Nice.
He's
cool.
Quite busy at his young age of 8,
Good.
3-4 days a week he's on ice, with some on weekends, which unfortunately I miss.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm not. So life becomes the ultimate hockey mom. His mom was the moto mom, right?
That's right.
Someone's got to pay the bills, keep the lights on, and for my role in this relationship.
And you guys have a good teamwork, so it's all teamwork.
Yeah, no, very blessed. I love living in Poland. Especially this year where the weather's starting to get much, much nicer. People here, the economy here, things are priced here. Crazy politicalness like it is across everywhere else.
Nice.
Right. Good.
They tend to have a lot of the same values within the country, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Proud of your country, and a lot of Polish people are proud of the country, and so they all stick together.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Joe, this has been absolutely. We can have you on for another 2-3 hours.
Oh,
we always have to keep the show so people stay tuned with everything. But man, from the bottom of my hearts, brother, thank you for taking the time to come on, tell the journey. Man, proud to call you friend and just awesome, man. We're rooting for you and Monster and everything else. Just the story is absolutely freaking amazing, man.
All right. Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I wish we could keep you on for 4 more
No
hours and
doubt
people would
about it.
listen. Got so many freaking questions, man. We appreciate you, Joe. Be good. Hopefully we can do this again. See you, brother.